What if the strangest American food combination became the one Europeans could not stop eating? Peanut butter and banana looked like a culinary prank until the first bite erased every objection. How many other American dishes have been judged before being tasted? And what happens when visitors discover that the country they were warned about is warmer, tastier, and far more irresistible than expected? One humble sandwich is about to expose a much bigger misunderstanding about America. The bite? That when the first bite does not look historic, yet it quietly overturns years of suspicion. Peanut butter spreads across bread like it owns the kitchen. Banana slices line up innocently, and a snack that seemed comically American becomes something nobody wants to put down. That reaction alone says more about cultural habit than taste. In Paris, breakfast still leans toward a buttered tartine, jam, or a croissant beside coffee. In Rome, a cornetto and cappuccino feel perfectly at home together. Even in the Netherlands, where peanut butter is familiar, adding banana can still look like America has wandered into the recipe wearing sneakers. None of those traditions are wrong, because they simply train the palate differently. The surprise begins when one familiar rule meets an American kitchen that treats rules as helpful suggestions. Peanut butter brings salt, roasted richness, and enough thickness to make every bite feel substantial. Banana answers with sweetness, softness, and the kind of comfort that belongs in a school lunchbox or on a kitchen counter before work. Together they behave like two neighbors who seemed incompatible until somebody placed them at the same backyard barbecue. The bread keeps everything steady, which is useful because the flavors are already doing plenty of talking. That is why this small sandwich becomes such a perfect symbol during the 2026 World Cup. Many European visitors arrive during the tournament expecting the America they have repeatedly seen through headlines, arguments, and oversized stereotypes. Then daily life begins correcting the picture immediately and without ceremony. They meet generous portions, grocery choices for every budget, tailgates where strangers share food, and kitchens where practicality carries real cultural value. In everyday American life, that is simply common sense served with napkins.
The banana part of it is obviously fruit, like a ton of nutrients in there that are amazing for you, and that simple carb to give you energy right now. Meal/snack that's going to give you substantial energy to last a long time, as well as right now. And it's just like, look, I could just walk down the street and eat this.
The peanut butter and banana sandwich fits that America beautifully. It is affordable, filling, quick to make, and completely uninterested in impressing anyone. It does not arrive under a silver dome because it has nothing to prove. It arrives wrapped in foil, tucked into a backpack, or handed across a counter before a long day. That humility matters because American food is judged by its loudest creations, while quiet classics keep winning people over. By the second taste, the hesitation usually fades almost as quickly as it appeared. The salty sweetness makes immediate sense, and the texture feels indulgent without needing a pastry chef, reservation, or pronunciation lesson. What looked strange 5 minutes earlier now seems almost annoyingly obvious. No wonder the sandwich starts as a joke and ends as a request for another. It offers the pleasure of dessert, the usefulness of breakfast, and the stubborn reliability of something a parent could assemble before the coffee finishes brewing. Perhaps that is America's real culinary talent and its most misunderstood gift. It takes ordinary ingredients, trusts appetite over ceremony, and creates something memorable enough to follow visitors home. After stadium lights dim, this may be one flavor that quietly stays behind, proving the country was never as simple as the stories told about it. Syrup-found chicken. The waffle arrives first, golden and harmless, looking like it belongs beside coffee in Brussels. Then fried chicken lands on top, maple syrup begins moving toward both, and an old European breakfast rule quietly packs its bags.
Okay, so I've made it. I can't say like I'm overwhelmed with excitement. It smells good. Just seems like a weird combination, but let's give it a go. Okay, first try. Oh, shit. Oh my god, it's really good.
Chicken and waffles, let's go, man. This chicken wing looks amazing. With a waffle, the sweet and the savoury, that combination, oh my god. Another famous dish here in the south, that you guys recommended. Shrimp and grits, fried grits. Oh God, that looks actually so good.
Okay. And I get a piece of this waffle.
What are you doing?
What do you mean, what am I doing?
Maybe it's not a taco.
Everything has a taco taste way better.
What do you think?
It is so good.
Why do you look so scared?
It's like flavors that I've never tasted before. It's weird, but good.
In Belgium, the waffle already has a proud identity. Brussels waffles are light, crisp, and commonly served with sugar, fruit, or cream, while Liège waffles are denser and sweeter because pearl sugar caramelizes inside the dough. Nobody needs fried chicken to rescue either one. In Paris or Vienna, putting a crunchy drumstick on breakfast pastry would look less like a recipe and more like somebody misread 2 menus at once. America sees the same plate and notices possibility rather than confusion. Chicken and waffles works because every part solves a problem created by the others. Fried chicken brings salt, pepper, hot fat, and a crust that cracks under the fork. The waffle gives softness, toasted edges, and little square pockets built like tiny syrup parking spaces. Maple syrup then moves between sweet and savory, smoothing the sharp corners without making the chicken taste like dessert. The plate is doing engineering, except the blueprints are covered in butter. That contrast explains why the first doubtful bite often becomes the fastest second bite. Human taste responds strongly when fat, salt, sweetness, aroma, and texture arrive together. And this dish stacks those signals with almost unfair efficiency. The crust makes noise, the waffle absorbs the juices, and the syrup keeps changing character depending on what reaches the fork. One mouthful tastes buttery, the next peppery, and the next carries a caramel edge. Repetition never gets comfortable enough to become boring. The scale of America's affection for these ingredients is hardly accidental. National Chicken Council estimates placed American chicken consumption at roughly 100 pounds per person annually in the early 2020s. Waffle House, meanwhile, has operated more than 1,700 restaurants across 25 states, turning waffles into part of the country's roadside vocabulary. Chicken and Waffles simply introduces 2 national regulars at the same table and lets them discover they have excellent chemistry. During the 2026 World Cup, that plate can become a more convincing introduction to America than another television debate. In Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, or Philadelphia, visitors encounter a food culture that is confident enough to mix categories and generous enough to make the experiment feel like a celebration. European cooking often protects tradition by refining boundaries. American cooking frequently creates tradition by crossing them, then asking whether anyone wants extra syrup. The magic is not that America ignored good taste. The magic is that America trusted taste more than etiquette. Chicken and Waffles looks playful, eats seriously, and leaves behind the dangerous thought that breakfast may have been following too many rules. By the time the final square of waffle disappears, the combination no longer seems strange. It seems like the table has been keeping a very delicious secret. And once that secret is learned, returning to a plain breakfast suddenly feels unusually difficult. Soda's sweetest surprise. A glass of root beer with a scoop of vanilla ice cream looks less like a drink and more like a science experiment conducted by a diner with excellent confidence. The foam rises, the ice cream starts melting at the edges, and suddenly the straw has a full-time job. For many European visitors, that first glance is confusing enough. In Britain, beer suggests a pub. In Germany, it suggests centuries of brewing discipline. In America, it can arrive alcohol-free, sweet, cold, and carrying dessert on its back.
Oh, it's like Coca-Cola, kind of.
Really?
Yeah, I'm into it.
That's your root beer virginity.
It tastes like Coke. It like hits the same spot as
Yeah.
a Coke would hit.
The real surprise begins with root beer itself. Its flavor comes from a mix of herbs, spices, vanilla, and wintergreen style notes, which is exactly why some Europeans compare it to medicine before they learn to enjoy it. That reaction is cultural rather than foolish. Wintergreen has long appeared in certain European medicinal products, so the aroma can trigger memories of a pharmacy shelf instead of a summer cookout. Then vanilla ice cream enters the glass and changes the whole argument. The cream softens the sharper herbal notes, the soda lifts the sweetness, and the foam turns each sip into something halfway between a milkshake and a fizzy dessert. That transformation explains why the drink becomes so easy to crave. Every sip changes as the ice cream melts, so the glass never tastes exactly the same twice. At first, the soda is bright and bubbly. A minute later, it becomes creamier, colder, and almost caramel-like. Near the bottom, the last spoonful tastes like a milkshake that took a scenic route through a soda fountain. The drink keeps rewarding curiosity, which is a very American way to make dessert behave. There is history behind that confidence. Colorado soda shop owner Frank J. Wisner is widely credited with creating the root beer float in 1893 after pairing root beer with vanilla ice cream. A&W began selling root beer in 1919, helping turn the flavor into a national roadside symbol long before fast food became a global language. More than a century later, the float still works because it asks for no special occasion. It belongs at a ballpark, a family restaurant, or a summer counter where the napkins are thin and the glasses arrive frosted. During the 2026 World Cup, that makes it an ideal little culture shock between matches, because one glass can explain American playfulness more clearly than an hour of commentary ever could. That is the cultural difference visitors notice during an American trip. Vienna may perfect a layered pastry, Paris may treat dessert like architecture, and Turin may serve gelato with polished restraint. The American soda fountain takes another route. It lets dessert fizz over the rim, hands you a spoon and a straw, and trusts you to decide which one wins. By the final sip, the medicinal comparison has usually lost the case. What remains is a cold, creamy, playful drink that feels unmistakably American. Inventive without being fussy, generous without asking permission, and memorable enough to make the flight home feel slightly less appealing. America's Golden Trap. The bowl looks almost too simple to deserve an argument. Elbow pasta, a bright cheese sauce, and enough steam to fog the nearest pair of glasses. Yet for many European visitors, American mac and cheese carries a strange contradiction. It resembles pasta, but it refuses to behave like the pasta they know. In Rome, cacio e pepe depends on restraint, timing, and the quiet authority of pecorino. In the Swiss Alps, Elplamagron brings together pasta, potatoes, cream, cheese, and often applesauce, but it still arrives with the weight of a regional tradition. American mac and cheese takes another road entirely. It aims for one thing with almost comic determination: comfort that tastes the same on a Tuesday night, in a stadium concourse, at a family cookout, or in a kitchen where nobody has the energy to wash more than one pot. That consistency is the real reason the dish becomes so easy to love. The pasta carries starch, the sauce brings fat and salt, and the soft texture asks almost nothing from the eater. There's no crust to negotiate, no bones to work around, and no polite pause required before the next spoonful. The bowl simply keeps handing over the same warm, creamy reward, like a diner waitress who already knows your order and has decided you look hungry. America did not invent pasta or cheese, but it did turn their marriage into a national comfort system. Kraft introduced its boxed macaroni and cheese dinner in 1937 during the Great Depression and reportedly sold about 8 million boxes in its first year. One package could feed a family cheaply, store well in the pantry, and reach the table without advanced cooking skills. That was not culinary laziness, it was practical intelligence wearing a yellow coat. The appeal still works because the dish lives at the meeting point between memory and convenience. A baked southern version may arrive with a brown top and sharper cheese, while a quick stovetop bowl stays glossy and loose. Restaurants may add smoked meat, jalapenos, lobster, or breadcrumbs, but the emotional center remains unchanged. Mac and cheese promises that the day can be complicated, while dinner does not have to be. That idea feels especially American. In cities such as London, Milan, or Lyon, people often grow up with clear expectations about what pasta should be, how cheese should be used, and when a dish becomes too rich. In the United States, a recipe is allowed to loosen its tie, pull up a chair, and serve everybody. During the World Cup, visitors may arrive expecting American food to be loud, excessive, or built mainly for photographs. Then a modest bowl proves otherwise. The pleasure is not in spectacle, it is in reliability. Mac and cheese taste like somebody remembered you had a long day. By the final spoonful, the bright color no longer looks suspicious. It looks like a porch light left on for you, and that may be the most American flavor of all. Gravy changed breakfast. There's a moment when biscuits and gravy looks less like breakfast and more like a courtroom exhibit. The biscuit has vanished under a pale, pepper-speckled sauce. The plate appears suspiciously beige, and every European instinct trained by bakery windows in London, Paris, or Vienna begins filing an objection. That entire objection, however, usually collapses after the very first serious bite. Most of the confusion begins with the deceptively simple word biscuit. In Britain, a biscuit is crisp, sweet, and perfectly comfortable beside tea. In the American South, a biscuit is warm, flaky, buttery bread that pulls apart in soft layers. Calling both foods by the same name is already enough to cause a minor diplomatic incident. Then America pours sausage gravy over the top and turns the misunderstanding into breakfast. The dish succeeds because it understands texture with almost unfair precision. The biscuit absorbs sauce without disappearing, while the gravy brings pepper, milk, salt, and brown sausage into every fold. The first spoonful is soft, crumbly, then creamy, with savory bursts that keep the plate from becoming heavy. It feels like someone condensed a farmhouse kitchen into one bite and added enough black pepper to wake the entire county. This is precisely where American food is so often underestimated by outsiders. European cooking is praised for elegance, restraint, and careful presentation, all of which deserve admiration. Biscuits and gravy comes from another tradition shaped by early mornings, physical work, inexpensive ingredients, and the need to make breakfast last beyond 9 o'clock. The dish was never trying to impress a palace dining room filled with silverware. It was built to keep ordinary people moving through a long and demanding day. That working-class honesty gives the meal much of its lasting cultural power. Cracker Barrel has said its restaurants serve more than 200 million biscuits in a single year, suggesting this is hardly a regional curiosity hiding behind a gas station. It is a national comfort language, especially across the South and Midwest, where a good biscuit can inspire the loyalty Europeans often reserve for neighborhood bakeries. During the 2026 World Cup, visitors passing through Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, or Kansas City may discover that American breakfast does not always arrive polished and photogenic. Sometimes it arrives on a heavy plate, covered in gravy, with the confidence of an uncle who has already fixed your car and refuses payment. That meal reveals something television debates rarely capture. American hospitality often expresses itself through abundance, warmth, and an insistence that nobody leaves the table hungry. That is why the dish becomes memorable after the initial hesitation fades. It offers warmth rather than spectacle, generosity rather than ceremony, and flavor far richer than its modest ingredients suggest. By the final bite, the pale gravy no longer looks questionable or unfamiliar. It looks like comfort itself has finally learned to speak with a Southern accent. America's brilliance here is simple. Take humble food seriously, season it properly, and make enough for whoever walks through the door. Sausage got wheels. Europe spent centuries perfecting sausage, and America eventually looked at that achievement, nodded respectfully, then pushed a stick through the middle and carried it into a football crowd. That may sound like a joke, yet the corn dog reveals something serious about American food culture. In Berlin, bratwurst belongs beside mustard, bread, and a proper grill. Vienna has Käsekraner, a sausage filled with cheese and usually served sliced or tucked into a roll. Across Germany and Austria, sausage culture comes with regional pride, familiar rituals, and enough local opinions to turn lunch into municipal politics. Then visitors reach an American fairground and meet a sausage wearing a golden cornmeal jacket, standing upright like it has somewhere important to be. The first surprise is sweetness. European sausage coatings are rarely built around cornmeal batter with a gentle sugary edge, so the combination can feel unusual before the bite even happens. Once it does, the logic becomes wonderfully clear. The outer shell is crisp at first, softer underneath, and slightly sweet without behaving like cake. Inside, the sausage brings salt, smoke, and warmth. Mustard cuts through both like the one sensible friend at a tailgate who remembered napkins. That contrast explains the craving better than size or novelty ever could. Salt makes the corn coating taste sweeter, while the mild sweetness makes the sausage seem smokier. The crisp exterior gives way to a springy center, so the mouth never settles into one texture for long. Even the stick matters because it lets people eat while walking, laughing, watching a game, or trying to locate the relative who disappeared near the funnel cake stand 20 minutes ago. This is where the corn dog stops being a strange combination and starts looking like an American-designed triumph. It needs no plate, knife, fork, table reservation, or peaceful corner. It was built for public life. County fairs, boardwalks, stadiums, and roadside stands are noisy places where food must survive movement and still taste good before the next attraction begins. America did not simply put sausage on a stick, it removed nearly every obstacle standing between hunger and satisfaction. The numbers show how deeply the idea has settled into American tradition. Fletcher's Original Corny Dogs has said it sells roughly 500,000 corn dogs during the State Fair of Texas, an event that usually runs for only 24 days. That works out to tens of thousands in a single busy weekend, all because one humble sausage learned how to travel without losing its dignity. During the 2026 World Cup, European visitors may discover that American stadium food carries the same energy as the country itself. Practical, cheerful, portable, and designed for a crowd larger than some European towns. A bratwurst in Munich invites you to stop and enjoy the moment. A corn dog in Dallas seems to say, the moment is already moving, so you'd better come along. By the final bite, the stick no longer looks childish or unnecessary. It looks like freedom from the plate, which may be one of the most American ideas ever served with mustard. Pizza found ranch. Somewhere in Naples, a pizzaiolo may have just felt a mysterious disturbance. Thousands of miles away, an American has folded a hot slice of pizza, dipped the corner into cold ranch dressing, and discovered that international diplomacy can apparently be conducted with mozzarella. To European eyes, this combination can seem almost mischievous. Pizza in Naples carries generations of craft with carefully fermented dough, tomatoes, cheese, olive oil, and very little need for outside assistance. The Associazione Verace Pizza Napoletana even maintains detailed standards for authentic Neapolitan pizza, covering everything from ingredients to preparation. Ranch dressing, meanwhile, arrives from a completely different cultural universe, usually wearing a plastic lid and sitting beside chicken wings. America places them together without showing the slightest concern. The appeal has little to do with disrespecting Italian tradition. It comes from the way ranch changes each mouthful without covering up the pizza underneath. Buttermilk brings a gentle sourness, garlic and onion add savory depth, while herbs create a fresh finish after the richness of melted cheese. Because the dressing is served cold, it also creates a temperature contrast against the hot crust. 1 second the slice is bubbling and salty, the next the ranch cools the edge like a tiny air conditioner designed specifically for pepperoni. That contrast keeps the experience lively. Fat carries flavor, acidity prevents the cheese from feeling too heavy, and the creamy texture smooths out crisp crust, chewy dough, and spicy toppings. Ranch does not enter the meal like an elegant guest waiting to be introduced. It walks in through the side door, knows where the refrigerator is, and somehow improves the party before anyone can object. Its American history makes the pairing even more fitting. Steve Henson developed the dressing that became Hidden Valley Ranch around the late 1940s, then served it at the Hidden Valley Ranch property in California after opening the ranch in 1954. What began as a practical dressing eventually became one of America's most familiar flavors, appearing with vegetables, wings, fries, sandwiches, and anything else willing to make room on the plate. Pizza had already become equally woven into daily American life. Federal dietary data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found that roughly 1 in 8 Americans ate pizza on any given day during the survey period. Once a food reaches that level of familiarity, experimentation becomes almost unavoidable. Americans do not merely inherit recipes, they keep testing them at birthday parties, sports bars, college apartments, and late-night kitchens where hunger has more voting power than tradition. That is the difference many World Cup visitors may notice in cities such as Dallas, Atlanta, Philadelphia, or Kansas City. European food culture often preserves excellence by protecting a dish's identity. American culture frequently shows affection by making the dish personal. Extra heat, another topping, a dipping sauce on the side, everyone gets permission to build the bite that suits them. After several tastes, ranch beside pizza stops looking like culinary rebellion. It begins to feel like American hospitality in sauce form, relaxed, generous, slightly unexpected, and always prepared to pull up another chair. Perhaps the biggest surprise was never the peanut butter, the banana, or any strange-looking plate. It was discovering how quickly unfamiliar food can turn into a memory people want to carry home. America's greatest recipes often begin with curiosity, grow through generosity, and end with strangers sharing the same table. Which American dish would you serve first to a skeptical European visitor? Tell us in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more cultural surprises worth tasting together ahead.